Hey, Damian Mason coming at you to discuss the business of food and agriculture and why it matters to you. Well, of course it matters to you because you eat every day and you are very happy to do so. We know that here in the United States, if you've been keeping up with my stuff, the coronavirus and the economic shutdown has brought some real changes to you, your consumption habits, and what you're able to find, buy, and how you eat it. Well, it's getting to be a bigger, more difficult situation from a global standpoint. And I'm going to tell you why that matters to you. Even though you're a well-off American or Canadian, I'm going to tell you why a global food crisis that's upon us is very bad for you. Today's Wall Street Journal has the headline, Virus Triggers Food Crisis, and they show women here in South Sudan picking up food rations that were just dropped from an airplane. You're saying, Damien, does this really matter to me? Yes, it does. Because remember, there's an interconnectedness to how everything happens in this world, from oil shortages to oil surpluses to the food that you eat to the pigs that are being euthanized on Iowa farms right now because of coronavirus-induced meat plant closures. It all connects. And sadly, this might actually impact us negatively. Okay, in the developing world, people are obviously much more hand to mouth, right? You're sitting here saying, okay, I went to the grocery, I couldn't get pork chops. Damn it, I'm bothered by that. But imagine if you had to stand in line to stand in line all day in a developing world where you were already hungry and you already had children that hadn't eaten very well for the last week, month, or their entire life. And when you got to the front of the line, you got a scoop of rice. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a lot of the global population that is really struggling right now, not only in South Sudan, but also in countries like India. Why am I going to talk to you about India? India has 1.3 billion people. They're just about as big as China. We hear all the time about China, but remember, India is just about as big. Between those two countries, you've got over 35 to 40% of the global population. India is important. India has been under a national lockdown since March 25th. Why does that matter? The farmers that produce food in India have been struggling to get their products harvested or transported in a country that is locked down. More importantly, India is the number one exporter of rice in the world. You didn't know that. So look at all the countries, all of the humans on Earth that rely on rice for a very important aspect of their daily diet. Only about 15 to 20% of India's rice has actually been exported. Ships aren't moving. There's also logistical problems. There are ports that are closed. And then there's the issue of protectionism. Russia, the number one exporter of wheat in the world, clamped down and said, we are not going to export any wheat until July. What does that do? It induces panic. It also induces hoarding. If Russia is hoarding, so now is every other country that exports wheat. What does that mean? That means there is a wheat shortage, even though there is wheat abundance, because everyone is clamping down. Think about toilet paper. You had 14 rolls of it, Larry. Did you really need to go to the damn grocery store and buy another 24-pack of Quilted Northern? But you did, because you were hoarding. The same thing is happening now with wheat in the world, on the global markets. So what this all ends up doing is it distorts the markets. It creates a lot of protectionism. It creates a lot of panic. And then there's the panic buying at the local level and then again by even the countries. Why does this matter to you? Well, there's another thought on this. The developing world has seen huge food price increases, even at a time right now when there's so much food, meaning like we have surpluses of a lot of our food products. You've heard about this. We're plowing down produce here in Florida or California, and we're euthanizing pigs and holding back cattle and breaking eggs rather than incubating them to become chickens because there's no room in the processing facilities. Well, the globe is dealing with a different situation in that their incomes have gone down drastically. Take, for instance, in India, where potatoes are up 27% in price. The problem is the poor Indians' income has gone down by about half. So if your income goes down by 50 or 60% and food prices go up 27%, what does that mean? It means that there's going to be shortages. It means there's going to be a lot less food on your plate. And it eventually means that some folks in third world countries are going to start to have an uprising. The Arab Spring of 2008, do you remember that? A lot of that was predicated on food shortages in poor and developing countries. I see these things happening in other countries now. Taiwan, not so much. Maybe not India so much. But what about, and this is where it comes home to you, what about a country that's already unstable or is not a big fan of the United States of America? Let's take North Korea. Let's take North Korea, where the average person does not eat or live very well on a daily basis, and now food prices are very, very high. The economy is very, very poor. Sanctions are kicking in. There's also food shortages. If you were the leader of a place like North Korea, and you faced a revolt from your people that you had squashed because you are a dictator, what would you do? You either face getting overthrown and tossed out of power by a hungry populace, or you react with something bold and big. And what might that bold and big maneuver be? How about throwing a nuke at the United States of America? Unite your people against the common enemy and say they have food, and because of them, you are starving. This is why I believe the United States of America must keep up the good work we do in the business of agriculture as a means of national defense. And while we're doing that, we do need to keep up our actual national defense. The world's a scary place. You know how it looks. When you got the toilet paper and when you have the cheeseburgers and nobody else does, you become a target. I'm Damian Mason. I always bring home the points of food and agriculture and tell you why it matters. I'm the author of the book Food Fear. If you haven't ordered your copy, please do so. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, I appreciate you keeping up, and I will always be here to give you some information you can use. Happy eating.